what is the timeline here? What did we announce? What did China announce? How did this all happen?
Well, basically, Kelly, what China announced is the revenge that it would exact if the U.S. went through with its tariffs. It was first reported overnight on state TV and just confirmed in a press conference with the deputy finance minister in China. It would be 106 products totaling $50 billion. They're calling it an exactly proportionate response to what the U.S. announced. This list would include soybeans, autos, chemicals, and it is the third such retaliation that China would levy against the U.S. Remember, they have already sought retaliation on U.S. tariffs on solar panels and washing machines, as well as steel and aluminum. So this would basically be a third set of actions, and it comes just hours after the U.S. Trade Representative published this detailed list of some 1,300 Chinese imports that it would target with the 25% tariff unless the U.S. and China reach an agreement between now and the end of May. That is when the U.S. tariffs would potentially take effect, and China's tariffs would only be implemented once those U.S. tariffs are. That's an important note to remember. The USTR list, it runs the gamut of commercial products like cash registers and copy machines to consumer products like dishwashers, golf carts, and flat-screen TVs. The USTR says the list was refined to cause the least disruption to the U.S. economy, but it still elicited criticism from manufacturing, technology, and business groups who said, yes, action was warranted, but that these specific moves will penalize consumers and small businesses. For what it's worth, President Trump yesterday reaffirmed his desire to hold China accountable.
They have a trade deficit of $500 billion a year. It's not something we can live with. So we'll be working with China. We'll be negotiating with China. Again, our relationship is very good with China, and we intend to keep it that way. But we have to do something to seriously relieve that trade deficit.
You know, Kelly, we first heard a couple of weeks ago that the Chinese and the U.S. sides were each talking. We haven't gotten an update on where things stand. They have held bilateral talks in the past that have borne no fruit, with administration officials saying that they are not satisfied with anything that China has brought to the table in the past. So we're still waiting to see whether these talks will be different. And we're still waiting to see whether the administration goes forward with further investment restrictions on China. I'm told by a person briefed on those plans that Treasury could wait a couple months to do that because it really wants to study the effect that that would have on the economy, and that it is watching the market reaction to all of this very closely.
Golf carts.
Yeah,
golf cart. The Marshall. I'm looking it up. They're made in Shanghai and Guangzhou. On Masters Week, they're dumping golf carts on us, Kayla. I mean,
I could go on, Joe. I mean, they're targeting U.S. tariffs are targeting syringes, dental fillings. I mean, this is a very, very specific and narrow list that is extremely long. It's about 58 pages long, and those are just a few of the items that were contained in there.
Am I just being an American and saying that, look, a lot of this stuff existed before we started, right? And then we start. Why do they have to retaliate if we're just if we were the retaliators to start? How can they retaliate against our retaliation when they were already the ones that were dumping and charging tariffs on us?
That is certainly one of the schools of thought, Joe, here in the U.S. But of course, if you're in China, President Xi and his ruling class need to appear powerful. They can't be seen as backing down when the U.S. are launching their own type of action like this. So they have to be seen domestically as powerful in China. And like I mentioned, this is just the third set of retaliatory measures that China has announced. With everything the U.S. has done to punish China, rightly or wrongly, over the last several months, China has come back with actions of its own, and it appears that they have been sort of stepping up the firepower of the effect of each of these responses. You know, when they announced a couple of weeks ago, perhaps last week, that they would be targeting imports of wine and cheese and fruit and rolled aluminum, that was seen as sort of a small ball measure that wouldn't really have a huge impact on the U.S. economy if those tariffs were to come to pass. But they do have other cards up their sleeve, and this appears to be one that they have been saving.
One more, and Kayla, I know we're going to keep hounding you all morning on this, but so you said nothing has actually happened yet for this latest round. So the USTR put out its list yesterday. China comes out this morning with this third set of everything from dishwashers to dental fillings. none of this is actually happening pending bilateral talks that may be concluded at the end of May?
Correct. And we should note that the Chinese list appears to be more tailored than the U.S. list. The dental fillings, syringes, golf carts, dishwashers, those are the products that are made in China that the U.S. would be levying tariffs on. The soybeans, autos, and chemicals, those are the U.S. products that once they're sent to China would incur these new tariffs. But we have a little bit more than a month, call it 6 weeks, before anything is expected to happen. USTR is soliciting comments from companies, stakeholders who will be affected by this. So if you have views on this and you want to submit those to USTR, they do have an open submission portal for that. And then they're going to be holding a hearing on May 15th, where people will be talking publicly about this effect and then publishing a final list of recommendations at the end of May after that whole process has run its course.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.